Thanks, Charles. Yes, I'm delighted to be joined now by Leon McCawley. Leon, congratulations on a fantastic performance. It's a really extraordinary piece, isn't it? And yet very rarely played. Why is that?
Yeah, it's so unusual because I think because of the extended solo at the beginning, this cadenza that seems to just go on and on and on forever. But it's such an inventive piece. He's very much inspired by Bach. It sounds like the opening of maybe a beginning of a partita or a French overture full of dotted rhythms, and a really unusual harmony. Harmonically, it's quite chromatic, and it's really been enjoyable to learn and play.
What's it like to kick things off with that fiendish cadenza?
Yeah, I don't know of any other piece that has such a difficult and challenging opening, but you just have to really believe that it's going to work and really focus on the drama of it more than anything.
Well, as Charles mentioned there, it is the premiere at the Proms of this piece,
yes.
But I gather that it's also the first time that you've performed it. How does it feel?
Well, I performed this a week ago with the orchestra in Manchester. We did a studio recording of it. But yes, this is the very first time, in a way, that this summer that I've performed this work of Finzi, even though I have played another work of Finzi with orchestra's Eclogue, which is a very beautiful lyrical piece, but totally different to this. This is not typical Finzi at all. It's a very unusual
I was
style.
going to ask if you thought maybe the audience members who are more used to the vocal work, that are very well known, if they would be surprised by this piece.
Yes, I think so, very much so.
Well, it's clearly made a huge impact on our audiences. We've had lots of texts and emails. I've got a text here from John in Hither Green, who says that the Finzi has to have been one of the real surprises of the Proms for me. He too picks up on the opening cadenza, talks about that Bach influence, and he says it's clearly showed that Finzi was very sympathetic to the pressures facing the soloists. Nice work from Mr. McCawley too, nice work indeed. Do you think Finzi was sympathetic to the pressures facing a soloist?
Well, he's a little bit unkind to have that large solo at the beginning, but it is pianistic. He was trained as an organist, and I think that shines through with this piece. It's, I think, very appropriate to be playing this at the Proms. It's especially in such an immense acoustic, and I think that's what I was trying to think about for the opening, to try and bring across that.
We've had an email too from Francis Flanagan, who says, do you like to play these rather obscure pieces, or do you prefer to stick more to the mainstream? And I was actually going to ask you, because you've always shown a real commitment to the new and unusual repertoire across your career. Do you feel you have a responsibility towards that as a pianist?
Well, as a pianist, we're so lucky to have so many different... I mean, the repertoire is so huge. It's endless. But as well as having... it's important for me to have the staple repertoire. But I think it's essential for a pianist as well to be looking for unusual composers that that are neglected and rarely performed.
Well, talking of which, we've asked our BBC4 audience tonight if there are any particularly neglected composers or pieces that they'd really like to see be better known. Are there any more that you'd add to that list, apart from, obviously, tonight's Finzi?
Oh, there are so many. One particular concerto that I've played quite a lot in the States, but not very often here, is the Samuel Barber Piano Concerto. We often hear the violin concerto and even the cello concerto. But the piano concerto isn't played very often, but it's an incredible piece and wonderfully orchestrated. So
am I right in thinking you've also recorded the Barber, is that right?
I have recorded the Barber solo music, but not the concerto, but I'd love to do that one of these.
So do you always try to keep things in balance in terms of the old classics, the Mozarts and Beethovens alongside?
Oh yes, well I couldn't live without Mozart, Beethoven, or Chopin, Schumann, Rachmaninoff. I mean, the list goes on and on. Yeah, we're just very privileged to have all that music.
Well, Leon, we're very privileged to have you here. Thank you so much for talking to us, and again, that absolutely dazzling performance.
Thank you.
Let you go and relax now. Charlie, back to you.